Hi, Julie and Aerin. Welcome back to episode 2.
Hi.
We almost got it all in one take, but here we are for take 2, episode 2. Where we left off in episode 1 was having just explained the celestial event that takes place in the sky called Venus retrograde. And based on the Hermetic law of correspondence, which is simply stated as above, so below, we know that individually we will simultaneously take the journey within our own microcosmic reality that reflects Venus's journey in the sky. And depending on where your own unique birth chart is, it will take place in a very specific area of your life. And you may already know where Leo is in your chart. And if you don't, then Julie and Aerin will outline each participant's location in their upcoming workshop called Venus Retrograde. I believe it's on Venus Retrograde. I don't know if you guys will come up with a funky name or not, but this workshop will be on July 22nd, and you can sign up for the workshop at either one of their websites, which we'll put in the description below. So in this episode, we are going to do the actual breakdown of the steps.
Can I add something?
Yes, absolutely.
I would just like to say, if you don't know where which house has Leo in it and which house Venus will go retrograde in, you can trust yourself to just pick whatever area of your life needs to make a descent and return, and you will be right with that. So
right.
Yeah, so the astrology workshop will add depth to that, but you can get it instinctively, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, and that's what we're hoping to encourage, is people's own connection to themselves and their own connection to their own intuition. Yeah. So here we go. We're gonna start into the steps now. So we'll start with the first. And these steps, as you have mentioned, Julie, these are what we do. This isn't the authoritative, be all and end all of how to do a ritual. This is just how we do it. If there's ways that you want to create to it, add to it, use different things, feel free to do that. This is just us sharing what we do to help you to sort of set something up.
Right. So you can riff on this in your own way and it'll be fine. And you could just sit there and imagine yourself doing it. I'll start. So usually when we do a ritual, we start with clearing our energy. And, for a long, long time, I've been using sage, smudge to, so I like the smudge, and I cleanse myself and other people in the circle. But now I live in a house where somebody's allergic to sage. And so I've had to adapt. And you can adapt with, maybe smoke isn't good, or you could use incense, or you could use sweetgrass, or you could use a spritzer. You can anoint yourself with oil. Anything sensual that you feel cleanses your worldly self and allows you to step into magical space, so to speak, is the first step. Yeah.
Nice. Aerin, would you like to do calling in the circle?
Sure. Yeah. So once you've cleared your energy, which the idea is really about letting go of anything that you don't want to bring into the circle with you, or maybe just letting go of busy mind space, or, anything that was with you before the circle started. And once you've done that, then you can open the circle itself. And so the way that I've learned to do that is by calling in the directions. And this is something that you can do anywhere in the world, at any time, with any tools or lack of tools. It's something that's always available. And I think of it as a way of placing myself in context of where I am and remembering my relationship to the land and to the cosmos and to the rest of the ecosystem around me. So a very simple way that you can do that is by calling in the 4 directions, north, east, south, and west. Some people start in the north and then move east. Some people start in the east and then move south. And some people will call in the 8 directions or the 6 directions. Like, this is really becomes very personal, depending on how you practice or maybe what your lineage is. I remember that Julie had mentioned something about calling in 8 directions, which is nice because 8 is a Venus number. But there are lots of ways that you can do this. And if you have some intuitive relationship to the different directions, then by all means, you can go with that. But I've always worked with East as air and sunrise, South as fire and midday, West as water and sunset, and then the North as midnight and earth. And once you've called in your directions, the circle is officially open. So whatever you do from there is part of the ritual or part of the magic after the circle is cast.
Yeah, and we often say that the circle is cast, we are between the worlds, right? Because when you cast a circle, you're between the worlds. Let no unwanted energies enter here.
Right, because you are in that moment in liminal space.
That's
You're
right.
you're not here and you're not there, you're in between the worlds. And
Yeah.
that is the place where the veils of this world become thinner. And you've called in the directions for support in protecting your ritual and
Right.
define the sacred space. And so the next step would be the actual ritual that you do, the actual steps that you take to conjure the energy of the ritual. And in this case, it's Venus retrograde, and you've chosen a myth that best suits it, whether it's Inanna or Baba Yaga and Vasilisa or Persephone. You're choosing the motifs and the images that make sense to you. So you can use something like a labyrinth, and then you can create something like the 7 gates with which Inanna goes down. And you can, you could dress up, you could put a headdress on, you could have jewelry on, you could have earrings on, and at each one of the gates then you surrender one of those as you become, laid bare as you go into the descent of the underworld to get to the center. And that's where you would observe and listen when you get to the center, when you get under there, so that you could listen to what reveals itself to you. This is the sacredness. This is the deep layers which we have access to when we're in ritual.
And when you're raising the power, when you're doing the enactment, however you do it, you might not have a labyrinth handy, but to work in a spiral and go inward to the center would be great. And to dance, to sing, to hum, right? It's all good because it's all strengthening the circle. Each time you do that, you're strengthening the circle. And of course, it's also probably good in that maybe between casting the circle and raising the power, to ask Venus to show up and be with you, to call in Venus or Aphrodite or Persephone or whatever it is, however you're Inanna, however you're imagining it. And then so you can put a lot of time into that or not. And then there's the observing and listening. And I think that's a whatever feels receptive. Like however, you could be meditative, you could lie down, you could do a shamanic journey, and you could just look around and see if you notice a bird outside or anything. It just to observe, to be aware of receiving.
Right.
Because you raised power, now you're receiving it.
Right. And you brought up a good point, Julie, of setting your intention, because rituals really need your intention to set the intention strongly before you begin the raising of the power is really important. Thank you. Yeah.
So once you've called in the circle, raised the power, and then observed what reveals itself to you when you're in the heart of that space, then you want to return from the descent. And I always find this to be an important symbol with any retrograde, is that in the first part of it, we're descending into something, and there's an unknown process that's unfolding. And then there's a kind of moment of revelation or something that reveals itself to us in the midst of that. And then we return. And any trip to the underworld is something that we'll usually want to return from at some point. So you can do this in the ritual by going back over whatever you've done to raise the power, maybe doing it in reverse or doing some inverse version of it. So anything that's going to symbolize returning from the journey that you've made and coming back into a more integrated, maybe perhaps mundane experience of reality.
Putting back your earrings and your shawl and your, yeah.
Your tiara.
Your tiara, right, right.
Yeah, and even if you did a guided meditation, if you laid down and did a guided meditation, just the act of sort of wiggling your toes and fingers and coming onto your side and sitting up, that's equal to coming out of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you could keep it as simple or as complicated as you want. I have my little rattle here. I find a rattle, it's a very helpful thing to have when I'm creating this kind of space. You can make an altar. You can put your crystals on it. I have a picture of my kitty cat who I think is still with me. Some of you may have met him. Yeah, so then after, Sarah, you're next.
Oh, well, I was going to say grounding the energy, which is that you've gone off to other worlds. You're in other dimensions, not necessarily of this world. And you need to come back to this world, and you need to remember that you're fully here on the earth plane. And so taking some of that energy and then touching the earth, letting your palms feel the earth or just the floor, the ground underneath your feet, or exchanging energy between the earth and the palms of your hands is a good way to help ground. Or even just standing up and shaking, feeling your body tapping, coming back into this realm. Yeah.
And then me. Then when you've done that, it's a good time, if you want, to do some divination, to pull a card. Sarah, did you have some card?
I did pull a card. I have it right here, and it just so happens to fit. I used the Sacred Rebels cards, and the card that I got was, you can see that it says, "Beyond the mind, the heart beats."
Oh, I love it. I don't know that deck. I might have to look into that.
I'll lend you mine. You can borrow it for a bit.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Um,
Yeah, so if you have a favorite divination tool.
I'll just read, I won't read the whole thing, but I'll just read one little aspect from it. It says, this oracle has a message for you. There is the way of the mind which can make mountains out of molehills, even when it thinks it's turning mountains into molehills. Then there is the way of the heart. It is subterranean and subtly beneath possible obstacles, intelligently shifting with exquisite sensitivity, sensing the way forward through dangerous pathways and responding to what is before it, even occurs in the physical world. However, with the heart's intelligence, we cannot see and know in the same way that we do when we allow the mind to direct us. We have to be open to another way if we want to benefit from the innate intelligence of the heart.
I love it, because Venus is going to be retrograde in Leo, and that's the heart.
Do you see how
perfect card?
Well,
so even just talking about a ritual works.
Yeah. Yeah, even just talking about it, you don't.
Yeah, even just talking about it, and then you divinate, and you get the perfect message. I love it.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the perfect Venus and Leo card.
It is really good. And then it's important when you're done to close the circle, to thank the spirits that have joined you, to thank the directions, to go through the directions. You called in the north, the east, the south, and the west, so now you can thank them and leave us your blessings as you depart. Stay if you will, go if you must. Leave us your blessings as you depart. I always like to do that when I'm releasing the directions, because I don't mind if they stay, like, but you know, they're free to do what they need. And yeah, so you're kind of you're returning to regular space, no longer in the sacred space of the ritual. And then, you know,
And
the
then,
circle is open but not broken.
yeah,
And then once you've closed the circle, especially if you're with other people, but also if you're doing this on your own, it can be really nice to share some food. And that's also a nice way to kind of come back to normalcy, or maybe integrate anything that you've been thinking about or anything that came up for you during the ritual. So you can share food that specifically honors Venus, maybe like a sweet treat, or something baked, something like that. Or some people like to eat the food of their ancestors during and after a ritual, and that's also a really nice way to go. Personally, I think you can't go wrong when having food or treats. So whatever excites you.
Mhm.
and there we
So
have it.
that's pretty basic. Yeah.
Um, so thank you for gathering again to be able to do this. And I hope that people watching at home get a lot of food for thought. And if you want to do your ritual and come back and talk about it, or if you have questions or comments you want to make in the comment section, please feel free. We'll answer those. And otherwise, if you want to go even deeper into this and get some juicy information from Julie and Aerin, I highly suggest going to their workshop. Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you.
Okay.